Coming up on today's episode of the Money Pants Superpower Hour. Today, we're going to talk about how to create a balanced meal of habits, how work ethic isn't just about chores. We're going to talk about the 6 different categories of habits, how to avoid extremes, the foundational habits, what habits create a foundation for the other habits. We're going to talk about why certain kinds of goals are necessary for your well-being and give examples of different types of habits and what ones are the most effective. We'll also talk about how to replace a bad habit with a good one and what to watch out for. All this and more, but first, the joke of the day.
Every 10 years, the monks in the monastery are allowed to break their vow of silence to speak 2 words. 10 years go by, and it's one monk's first chance. He thinks for a second before saying, food, bad. 10 years later, he says, bed, hard. It's the big day a decade later, and he gives the head monk a long stare and says, I quit. I'm not surprised, the head monk says. You've been complaining ever since you got here. Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Money Pants Superpower Hour. We are your hosts, Hannah M. Fontaine, and we're the proud parents of 7 sons and 6 daughters, ranging in age from college student to toddler. We're both BYU graduates and the creators of Money Pants. Head on over to KeptonMoneyPants.com to learn more about what we do and what we're all about. We believe every person on this planet has been given at least one superpower to help them accomplish their unique mission in life. But the only way to unlock those superpowers is through work ethic. That's when greatness happens. And that's where Money Pants comes in. Money Pants is the complete tool set for cultivating work ethic in all aspects of a person's life. And today's topic is how to create a balanced meal of habits. And I think part of the reason why habits are so critical is because Money Pants is all about work ethic. But it's not just about chores and becoming a really good janitor. It's not what it's about. It's about developing all aspects of your life, from relationships and education and talents, because all of those things require work ethic. So work ethic is like the foundation, the core value of Money Pants, but it's there to help support the development of your superpowers, and which ultimately leads you to achieve your unique mission.
You have to learn to apply that work ethic to all different aspects of your life, not just doing the dishes, not just making your bed. So that's a good place to start, but... Well,
without work ethic, though, nothing else really matters. You won't ever develop your talents. You won't develop your superpowers. So that's why, work ethic comes first. Mm-hmm. But without talents and a reason to use that work ethic, you'll just be the world's greatest janitor. And that's actually not what we're about. So I want to kind of talk about if the jobs in Money Pants, because we assign jobs, daily and weekly jobs, if those are for teaching work ethic, then habits are the application of it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about our analogy, and that is kind of think of work ethic in Money Pants, and especially the habits, as a balanced meal. And when you're setting up your habits, you want to kind of approach it in a balanced way. And we'll make sure that you're not overdoing any one aspect.
Yeah, think of it as the nutrition that your body needs. And you don't want to... I once took a class in Nutrition 101 in college, and it was one of the best classes that I had. And the book was interesting because it went through all the different nutrients that your body needs, and it would explain what it did in your body, why you needed it. And then it would say what would happen to your body if you didn't get enough of that nutrition. Mm-hmm. And then it would do the flip side and say what happened if you would get too much of that, and where there were toxic effects. So yeah, if you don't have enough salt in your diet, that's going to hurt you. But if you overdo it, that can kill you,
But salt's a good thing.
But salt's a good thing. It's something
it's a
your
necessary
body
thing.
needs. And so going on an extreme...
but underdoing it or overdoing it.
Yeah, because some people are like, oh, salt's bad. And they cut all the salt out of their diet. And that can kill you. And but so can the opposite extreme. So, you hear about some college student, oh, will you eat this? Will you eat that? Hey, will you eat this whole thing of salt? Yeah, they died. They died that day. So you can't do that. But also there's the issue of if you're eating, 5 pounds of carrots in one day, that's filling you up. And wow, carrots are good for you. But not only is that overdoing it on carrots. But the problem is that probably means you're not filling your stomach up with the other nutrients that your body needs as well.
Yeah, because there's no room. There's no room left.
And so when you're making the habits, likewise, you don't want to fill up all your time with just focusing on one type of habit, because there are other things that you as a person need to have a balanced and fulfilling life. And so you don't want to just fill it up with one thing. You don't want to overdo it on the carrots. So even though carrots are good.
And so, and the balance is what helps a person become well-rounded and complete.
Yeah.
And so, and like you said, avoid extremes, So here are the six, these is what we recommend, the 6 different categories. And you know what? There may be 4 or 5, but we've broken it down into 6, where we think there are 6 basic categories. And again, everybody in the family has 10 habits. So you have a lot of leeway, a lot of options there. But within those 10 habits, we recommend everybody in the family have at least one goal in the following 6 habits. And here they are. Physical, number 1. Number 2, spiritual. Number 3, mental. Number 4, emotional. Number 5, social. And number 6, artistic. And the thing is, and we'll talk about this in a second, but the physical and spiritual, those are number 1 and number 2, because we kind of think of those as like foundational habits. Those are kind of like, you might be able to get away with not having habits in the other categories, but those 2, physical and emotion and spiritual, are kind of an absolute. And,
well, they kind of dictate the other habits that you're developing.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's go into that. The first one is physical, a physical habit or goal.
Well, one time I think we were printing something out at Kinko's, and I picked up one of their books on, how to become successful or whatever. And I was just, flipping through it. And it was interesting because this person's observation was that successful people spend a lot of energy and time doing activities that will increase their energy. And they'll go to the gym. They'll make sure they're going to bed on time and eating a good diet, things that would maximize their energy. And the concept was, well, if they take the time to maximize their energy, then they get all the other stuff done. But if they're not feeling well, you're just kind of in survival mode. You do the bare minimum if you're not feeling well. I've gone through morning sickness many times, and it's bad. And during morning sickness, I do the bare minimum. Don't come to my house. Don't look in my bedroom. I'm doing the bare minimum because my energy is so low during that time that you're just kind of in a survival mode. So if you really want to, whereas when I have good energy, I'm like, I want to do this and I'm going to do this. And I get so much done in a day when I have energy. And so it's a very worthwhile activity.
It's like a foundational thing. Like, make sure you take care of this because it kind of dictates
what is it?
Everything else.
It's like, I don't know. It's maximizing if you take even though you're taking time out to take care of your body, you end up
sharpening the saw.
Yeah.
Sharpening the axe. Sure. There's that. Well, the analogy, what is it? The 2 guys, one chops at the tree with his axe all day long, and the other guy takes a break and goes and sharpens his axe. And the first guy's like, "Oh, you're so lazy, he's not here, hacking away at the tree." And turns out the second guy comes back from sharpening his axe, and he cuts down the tree in half the time. He took time away from doing what he was supposed to be doing to sharpen the axe, but it actually helped him to be more efficient when he was actually working. And that's the whole idea.
It's the same concept of.
And I'm sure I butchered that story, but the idea is, that's the idea.
Yeah. So taking time out to make sure you're doing well physically and maximizing your energy is like sharpening your axe, and it makes the whole rest of your day more effective.
Oh, I like that. Okay. So, well, here are some examples. I think that really helps is when we just list examples. And here are some. Physical goals. And they can be really simple, and they should be simple. Things like taking your vitamins or drinking enough water or getting 20 minutes of cardio or going to the gym or playing basketball or some other sport, tennis or racquetball or whatever it may be. Doing push-ups and pull-ups. I mean, for a while there, Hannah, my goal was 10 push-ups a day, and that was it. Because that was all I could do. That was my energy level. But it was something. It was better than nothing.
It was a good start, and you built up from there.
But or just playing with your kids, running around. Seriously, running around with the kids, having them chase you, you chase them. That's huge. That goes a long way. To getting your cardio up. Proper bedtime.
Bedtime.
And this is, I think everybody should, for one of their physical goals, or for one of their goals, should be a bedtime. But no matter who you are, everyone should have a bedtime. And for me, I've noticed, because I am so busy and I have so much on my plate, and I have a tendency I get a lot done once the kids go to bed, and it's so easy. Okay, I'll just stay up an extra hour, and pretty soon I'm going to bed at 11, and then midnight, and then 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that is not healthy for my body, and I need to set a bedtime for myself. So what we did is the internet turns off at 11, and that has a way of really helping me realize, oh, okay, that is my goal, to go to bed at a decent hour. Okay, and the internet's off, that helps. So, and we haven't even talked about that, but all these goals, we really should have prefaced this with any goals that you set should be in accordance with the how to set and achieve your goals faster than ever. We did that blog and that podcast, boy, a long time ago. But those, and the reason we did it so long ago is because that's one of the core things that Money Pants does, is it's all about proper goal setting principles. And this is the application of that, like how to maintain that balance within that framework. But make sure, if you're listening, go back and re-listen to how to achieve your goals faster than ever, or go back and reread the blog about how to achieve your goals, because it's really good to review kind of these basic principles. I'm not going to go over them right now, but just when making goals, one of them is to make sure your goals are positive and achievable. So you can't be making goals like, don't go to bed late. No, you need to make your goal, go to bed early. And at 11 o'clock.
Specific. Yeah, by 9.
Be in bed by 10:30 with lights out by 10:45 or whatever it is. But it needs to be specific.
Get 8 hours of sleep every night.
By going to bed at 11 and waking up at 7, whatever it may be. Okay. And that's another goal, is making sure you get sufficient sleep.
Which how many people are sleep deprived all the time, especially parents?
Yeah, absolutely.
Seriously sleep deprived.
Another goal, I think, it doesn't apply to me, but I know it applies to other people, and that is to replace alcohol or smoking or any vice that you wish to overcome. Replace that with more nutritious meals. And didn't you have a comment about that, Hannah?
I had 2 comments about that. One was, a lot of times they found genetically that people with alcoholism, that have a tendency towards alcoholism, because some people drink alcohol and they don't get super addicted. Other people, they drink one drink and wow, I'm an alcoholic now. They found that people like that usually have hypoglycemia. And when they take alcoholics and they go, someone's trying to overcome alcoholism and they go to AA, there's about a 25% chance. It's between 25 to 30% chance that they'll recover from alcoholism by just going to AA. Mm-hmm. But this one doctor found that if you instead treat their hypoglycemia and send them to AA, the success rate of overcoming the alcoholism was 75%. It was much higher. So by them taking care of their physical body, they were able to it helped them overcome this vice, this thing that was controlling their life. So, but they had to replace the bad thing with something good.
That's awesome. I like that.
So, yeah. And the same thing with, I know people who are trying to overcome smoking. I've read this multiple times where one thing that helps people overcome smoking is if they start exercising and they start eating fruits and vegetables.
Because it regulates their their appetite and the desire for smoking actually goes away. The desire
for smoking goes down.
It's the weirdest thing. It's no longer as much of a challenge.
Yeah. But they had to replace it with the right thing in order to overcome it. Whereas you had a friend who was so proud of himself. Did he give up smoking? What did he give up?
Well, that's just it. And this goes back to the whole proper goal setting principles.
Yeah.
It has to be something positive, and you have to replace whatever you're doing bad. This is why you can't have negative goals. You can't say, I'm going to stop smoking. That's not an achievable goal, because, okay, you stop smoking. Now there's a void. There was an activity that was taking that place in your life, and now there's nothing there. It needs to get filled by something, because if you don't fill it, it will get filled by something, and it's always
whether
bad.
Emotionally or physically, it has to be replaced by something.
This guy, I love him to death, but he was so proud of himself for giving up smoking, and he picked up cocaine. That was his, and he's like, I kind of went from the frying pan into the fire on that one. It's like, you think? But that's the problem, is he didn't have a proper replacement. If he had just been, I'm going to take up cooking or baking or basketball or something, rather than just, I'm going to stop smoking.
Yes.
It would have been more effective.
For me, right now, I'm actually expecting, so I weigh a lot right now. But last year, as I've gone through so many pregnancies, I started just adding 5 pounds on, 5 pounds on. And it finally got to the point where I was 195 pounds and my knees were hurting.
Yeah, but you're 6'4", Hannah.
No, I'm not. And I was really having a hard time with this. And so I wanted to be healthier, and I wanted my joints to feel better, and my neck and my knees and everything. And so what I replaced, instead of saying, I'm good, my goal is what I wanted to achieve was weight loss. But instead, the goal that I set for myself was to drink 2 glasses of water before every meal.
But see, that's just it. Your goal wasn't weight loss. Your goal was
to get healthier.
Yeah,
my goal was to get healthier. But the steps that I was going to take to achieve that was simply, I'm going to drink 2 glasses of water before every meal. And that was it. And in 5 months, I lost like 30 pounds. Just from doing that. But it was a positive goal. It was something I could do.
Right.
And something I could, improve my health with.
So anyway, and I think it's ironic that we're talking about food, and our analogy is maintaining a healthy diet or a balanced meal of habits, where one of your habits should be eating balanced meals for physical. So that's number 1. Physical goals. That's one of the core values. You should have at least 1, probably 2 goals in that category of physical habits. The next one is spiritual habits. And this is one of the 2 foundational goals or categories we think of, is where with the spiritual goals, and we're not just talking about God, it's becoming one with your environment and your higher power, really, is what we're talking about here, where...
Well, that is God, though.
Well, different people define it differently. I happen to believe in God, but other people define it differently. Whatever your religion is, whatever your reliance is on a higher power. Because AA, for example, we were mentioning AA, they ask you to rely on a higher power, not necessarily God, but there has to be a higher power to help you aspire to a greater height. Anyway. But the spiritual goal is another foundational category. And the reason why it's foundational is because it gives you that direction and purpose and hope, but also gives you kind of a moral basis.
It gives you a why, actually, for what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
It gives you the why. And so it's very motivational for the other things that you're accomplishing in your life. Because if there's no purpose to your life, there's no direction to your life, setting these other goals, why would you do that?
Right.
So
well, I think
that's why it's foundational.
Well, I think a good example is if you're developing these great work ethic and then all these talents, but using them for the wrong reasons. What's the C.S. Lewis quote? Education without morals is you're just training more clever devils.
Exactly.
Something along where you need to have some sort, and I like that. You need to have like some sort of moral compass. Again, and when you are relying on a higher power, that naturally comes. And so the spiritual goal needs to be something along the lines, here are examples of what not to do, I guess. Using your great social skills that you've developed to bully other people. Yeah, that's not a good thing. That's not a good use of your talent. And I'm sure there are a million examples that you could probably think of, but the one I thought of was, using your social skills to bully other people, or maybe using your great computer skills to hack other people and to steal money. Like, that's not what we're about.
Yeah, but if you develop talents and
You
abilities,
could use them
but
for the wrong reasons.
you are spiritually not in the right place, what is that going to profit you? What good is going to come from that?
Or from society, or from the people,
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
people around
it'll
you. Sure.
hurt you, or it'll
Exactly.
hurt the people around you.
So ideally, we want to use our talents to make the world a better place and to better the lives of those around us. For, using the flip side would be using your popularity and good looks to influence others and to become more inclusive. To reach out to those who maybe don't have the friend group or the social whatever strata that you do, and you become more inclusive, and you better, the rising tide raises all boats. You bring other people into your friend group and make people feel more included.
Well, that's what you would hope that you would do, and also what you'd hope your family members would do with these amazing talents and abilities that they potentially could have and are working to develop. That's the goal. And it's sad when you see talents used in the wrong way.
When I think another good example would be, my daughter, who has a beautiful singing voice. And she practiced and developed it and worked really hard. And she said, you know what, I want to do a performance for the old folks home down the street. And she did. She organized a whole concerto and I can't remember all the different musical numbers she put together.
She got a whole bunch of musical numbers together and put on a performance. And
for these people who
they enjoyed it so much.
Oh, it was very touching.
Yeah.
They were really, really happy to have her there. And so that would be a good example of how to use your talents to bless and encourage the lives of others. And so in this category of spiritual goals, I think the easiest one, the most obvious one would be to pray. Whether it's praying in the morning and the evening or whatever it may be, have some goal to just keep yourself on track to remember to pray, or some sort of scripture study. And pretty much every religion has some form of scriptures, whether it's Buddhism or Taoism or Catholicism or all the different forms of Christianity or Judaism. They all have a book of scripture that you can contemplate and go, oh, that's going to make me a better person.
Yeah, that promote virtues and
that's it. That's what I'm talking about.
A higher standard of living.
Yes, virtues that promote a certain set of virtues. I think that's really the key. Is your spiritual goal should be instilling in you and encouraging in yourself some sort of virtues that you want to incorporate in your life. But also journal, a study journal of what you learned as you're going through, your spiritual journey, which is different than a regular journal. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, where you write down thoughts and ideas that come to you, where you can refer back to that. And it helps you internalize the aha moments that you have as you study your scriptures and pray and meditate or whatever.
Well, that was the other one is meditation. There was a study, and I'm trying to remember who it was. I want to say it was like the dean of Stanford, who said, the things that he's noticed that kids he sees lack. And he's like, one of them was, and I'm sure I'm butchering this study that he did, but one of the things he found that college students lacked was the ability to be alone with their thoughts. Just them and their thoughts. They had to be constantly entertained, always had to be doing something, always had to be looking at a screen or being inundated with some sort of media or interaction with other people. And he's like, no. They need to learn to just be alone and to be comfortable being alone with themselves and their thoughts.
Hey, that's when I take a shower.
No, that's great, because I know that for some people that is their alone time, and that is their. But that whole concept of meditation and kind of being at one and being aware of who you are and what you're doing, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But
just I can't get in the shower when I'm in a hurry because I start meditating.
Right.
And I'm very comfortable being alone with my thoughts.
So that's number 2 is spiritual, some sort of spiritual goal or goals, and it's a foundational one. Number 3, the number 3 category we have for goals is mental. This is more the academic or book learning, kind of expanding your mind, whereas the other one was helping your body. The physical was kind of helping your body be healthy. The next one was your kind of your soul or your whatever you want to call it. And then this one's kind of expanding your brain, mental. And I love the quote. I think it's attributed to Einstein, but I've never validated or verified. But he said something along the lines of, great minds talk of ideas, mediocre minds talk of things, and small minds talk of people. Well, if you're always filling your mind with ideas, you can't help but that comes out of your mouth. Like when you're always studying new ideas, new philosophies, new book learning, new topics, you can't help but go, hey, I was just learning about this new writing style, or, oh my gosh, I was learning all about the Quran on this great courses class, or, oh, I was studying physics. I never made this connection before. Like that is what, according to Einstein, that's what makes a truly great mind, is someone who's always filling their mind with ideas.
Well, I once had a friend who, or a relative, I guess it was more of a relative, where I would try to have a conversation with this person, and the only thing they wanted to talk about was gossip.
Oh, yeah.
That was it, and which made me feel uncomfortable. And so I would try to change the topic and be like, hey, so I learned this, and what do you think about this? And they would just give me a blank stare, like, you're so weird, or you're, I have no idea.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. And
unfortunately, the conversations with, and I know who you're talking about, the conversations with this person were always incredibly shallow and very ungratifying. And you kind of left feeling drained.
You felt bad after you left because you're like, yeah, it just talks
because they
about,
would just talk about
people, or
not in a good way. Like there's good talking about people, like, oh, how are we going to help so and so? Oh, so and so's fence fell down. I think we could go do a project for that. Of course, that's an idea, so never mind. I guess, yeah, really small minds gossip.
Yeah,
I think we can kind of adjust that quote.
And so, like, but as a stay-at-home mom, it helps me to read the newspaper, or to
be connected with the outside world.
Be connected with the outside world, or have things to think about and ideas. And if you're not learning about stuff, you don't get ideas.
Right, you can't make connections.
You can't make connections and ideas, and it's just
your brain.
More
think of your brain as like
satisfying.
Play-Doh. If you only have a speck of Play-Doh, how many things can you make?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're always adding more Play-Doh to your collection, you can do a lot more cool shapes, and pretty soon you're like, oh, and I can make a mom and a dad, and here's their house, oh, and here's their yard, oh, and look, they have cows, oh, and here's a spaceship, and you can make whole cities. But if you never add more Play-Doh to your brain,
you're kind of limited.
You're really limited.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I made a flat penny. I made a round ball. And that's it. Those are your two options. And you have nothing to say, and you can't contribute in any sort of beneficial communication with anybody else. Your conversations are
really bland.
Lame. So here are some examples of what type of goals that you could set for.
Well, I was going to say, I noticed that when I was dating, that was like some people, like, you couldn't talk to them. They didn't really, they could talk about a movie coming out, or a movie they saw, or a movie they wanted to see.
Yeah, but they couldn't even explain why they liked it.
Yeah, and it was like,
it reminds me of the Chris Farley skit. What was it? The Chris Farley talk show where he goes, remember, if you haven't seen it, it's hilarious. Yes. He's like, remember that time when you were, and he's talking to like a famous musician. Remember that time you wrote the words, all you need is love? And the guest goes, yeah, I wrote that. And Chris Farley goes, that was awesome. And that's the extent of the conversation. It's really weird and awkward.
Because he didn't have any more.
He had never
nothing else going on, so he couldn't think of what else to ask.
So make some mental goals for yourself. And here's some examples. Like, read or listen to an autobiography. Those are always, a well-written autobiography may be the best type of book ever, because truth is stranger than fiction, where you read about somebody's life, especially, high people from history. They're just it has to be well written, though. I can't stand poorly written autobiographies, but
or biographies.
Biographies, yeah. Sorry, autobiographies and biographies. Thank you. Or you can watch TED Talks, or listen to podcasts on the way to work.
Like the Money Pants podcast.
That's a good one. Or learn a language on Duolingo. And Hannah, you and I love our master classes and great courses. Those great courses, the kids will be watching. I'm at work, and I'll go downstairs and I'll go grab a bite or something to eat. And next thing I know, 30 minutes later, I'm still watching
Yeah.
Where I'm
Well,
like,
they're learning all about DNA and just
No,
all the
the one-
different aspects of DNA.
The one
They're-
today was all about the different types of lizards in Australia. And you're like, oh,
in Africa.
boy.
In Africa.
Was it Africa?
Yeah, the guy has an Australian
Oh,
accent,
okay.
but he's
You're like, what a boring topic. But
Yeah.
no, this guy was, and he kept my interest. And I had to peel myself away because he's like, and then there's this type of lizard, and there's this type, and he's showing pictures and the different attributes of each one and why their scales look different and how chameleons and how their eyes work. And you're like, dang it, I got to go back to work. But it's fascinating and it's really cool stuff. So, and then, another goal you could make would be, maybe reading from the newspaper or reading from a specific
Yeah.
book, or again,
I like the Wall Street Journal. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's, because it's not, if you can find a newspaper that's not like depressing,
Right, that
that's
helps.
it's not all about everybody that was murdered that day. It just, if you pick out a newspaper, try to make it a non-depressing.
and not the tabloids. 'Cause that's kind of like what we were
or
talking
like
about
the
earlier.
news, even like, or I'm like,
Yeah, you have to be
it's
careful with
very
the news.
negative.
The
so
news is inherently negative.
You want
so
to
gotta be
find
careful.
something that's more intellectually illuminating.
And Business Weekly, I think, is another good one, or Business Insider, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
There are a few.
There are subscriptions out there where you feel like you understand the world around you better, you
Right.
understand people better,
Yeah.
you walk away with ideas and stuff like that.
And a good rule of thumb, if you walk away being excited about what you learned and feeling excited about the world, it's probably a good thing. If you walk away scared, full of fear, and depressed, probably need to change the channel or read something different.
Yeah.
So, okay. Number 4, the number 4 category for habits is emotional. And this one kind of seems like it could probably fall under mental, but we separated it out because really, in my mind, Hannah, this is one goal in particular, and that's journal writing, where this is the concept of kind of centering yourself, self-mastery, self-awareness, that concept of living deliberately, not letting life happen to you, taking control of your life, where journal writing really comes to mind, where I'm taking the time out of my day for 15 minutes and just writing my thoughts. And there's something magical about that. And I'm not entirely sure of all the psychology behind that, but for some reason, when I sit down at the end of the day and I just take 15 minutes and I write in my journal the events of the day and also how I feel and think about them, it really has a way of internalizing them, and I'm able to process them better. And I think that's true for everybody. I could be wrong, but for me personally, journal writing is an absolute must. And total side note, I live a pretty exciting life. And I go back and I read even stuff that happened a couple of years ago, and I'm like, wow, I forgot about
It
that.
like makes me cry.
Maybe you shouldn't read it then.
It stresses me out. I'm like, my grandchildren can read this.
So, but also in this category would be things like going to counseling or therapy.
Or even like once a week, taking some time out to analyze like where you're going in your life
Right.
and what you accomplished and what you want to do different and
Right.
what you want to do better.
Again, kind of that self-centering idea.
Yeah.
Where just, or it could be, and a lot of times people like calling and talking to their kids or calling and talking to their parents, where it's just kind of that emotional connection with who you are and your roots. It's not the same as friends, though. That's a different category. It's for some reason immediate family, and having that connection is that emotional, I don't know, healing, I guess. Not even emotional healing, just that emotional grounding that takes place. Also, and we talked briefly about this a moment ago, what quiet time, being alone with your thoughts. And I had a professor at BYU. His name was Randy Bott. And he talked about, he said his wife thought he was really weird, but he loved it. And he said, I will go into my study and I will turn out all the lights and I will just sit there in basically darkness and just think for 15 minutes. He'd set a timer or whatever. He would just sit there and think. He wouldn't write anything down. He would just be alone with his thoughts in the dark so he wouldn't be distracted by anything.
And this guy was brilliant.
He was absolutely
brilliant.
brilliant. He may be the most brilliant person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
He had made so many connections on so many topics about so many different things. Like I could talk to him forever. I could talk to that guy forever and never run out of things to talk about. And I loved that about that. And he said that was one of his tricks. He would go into his study with the lights out, and he says, I can't tell you how many times my wife would come in and be like, "What are you doing? You're so weird." But that was his process. Other people may have different processes, but that was his. And he swore by it. He's like, I am alone with my thoughts, and that is how I rejuvenate, but also I make connections. And maybe that falls into the emotional, maybe that's the mental, but either way.
Or spiritual. It can fall under some of the other, there's a little bit of overlap.
But then there was our friend, and we'll call her Jane, who went through a pretty divorce where her husband left her for a less than stellar other woman, we'll say.
Yeah.
And
it was devastating. And
she had 4 young children. It just what a nightmare. And it had been a couple years, and we touched base with her. And what did she tell you, Hannah? She said something
I
like,
asked her. I said, okay. After we talked about her situation, I said, so are you dating other people? Like, have you moved forward and are looking for a new relationship? And she said, I'm not there yet. And she's like, I want to make sure I'm okay with myself. This was devastating. It crushed me. And I want to make sure that I'm okay with myself and I'm okay being alone. And I feel good about myself before I start looking for a companion and looking for a serious relationship. Because otherwise, if I go out and jump into a relationship, I'm super needy.
Right.
And it's going to be an unhealthy relationship. And not an equal, not a balanced relationship.
That was wise. That's very wise of her.
And I thought, wow, so she was taking steps to heal emotionally.
And I think maybe that's it. This category really is for any sort of, especially emotional healing after any sort of trauma or letdown or family discouragement. I think this one is really, the emotional goal is key.
And I also think a lot of moms and dads, they run around all week and they're constantly they are in high stress mode.
Right. Go.
And so I've heard a lot of moms say, okay, you got to take time out for yourself. And
yes,
so,
okay, yes.
where
the emotional recharge.
I
sure.
gotta go paint my nails. I've got to take a breather. It's some self-care.
But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We're only talking like 10, 15 minutes.
Or
That's
even
it.
once a week, just something. And so whatever can help you emotionally feel
well.
Yeah. And
Whole.
for different
Complete.
people, they might have different gaps or needs in that arena.
But that one's in there. Number 5, the fifth topic category we chose was social, and I think this one's pretty straightforward. Where social, we are social creatures. If you don't have relationships, life is kind of pointless and empty.
Well, that's why it's so hard when somebody, they don't have the opportunity to get married, or they don't have the opportunity to have children, or they don't have brothers and sisters, or their parents pass away. Relationships mean so much to us as human beings. It's key to our you put someone in solitary confinement, they go nuts.
That is a serious punishment.
That's
torture. It is.
And so developing relationships, improving relationships is very worthwhile and extremely satisfying. I don't know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I think that's up there on the the crown of needs is having healthy relationships.
Well, no. What's the quote? No person on their deathbed ever lamented that they ever wished they had spent more time at the office.
Yeah.
You never hear that. It's always, I wish I'd spent more time with my family. I wish I'd repaired my relationship with my son. I wish I had, treated my wife better. Whatever it is, it's always about relationships.
Yeah, or they're very pleased with and have all these good memories, but one way or the other, it's about their relationships.
Yep. So here's some examples of goals you can set in the social category. Spending one-on-one time with your kids. And this is one of mine personally. I try to spend 15 minutes per day with one of my children every day. It's just one of my goals. That helps me out to connect with my children. I know my kids love it. It's just a good one. But also date night with the spouse. Hannah and you and I try to go on dates once a week. Oh, and I should back up. All the goals, they're either daily or weekly. Goals and habits don't really happen if they're less frequent than that. Mm-hmm. So all the goals are either daily or weekly goals. And so you and I have the daily goal of spending one-on-one time with my kids, but I have the weekly goal of spending one-on-one time with you. And I think every spouse should do that with their husband or wife.
Well,
they should definitely go out on a
Remember
date.
when we were young parents and, we were starting out, we were poor, but then you had like crazy jobs where you were working 18 hours.
Yes.
18 hours a day. You were working nights.
Good times.
Crazy stuff. And
So different than now.
We hadn't gone out on a date. We spent time as a family, but you and me, we hadn't gone on a date for like a year or 2 years. And so we decided, hey, we want to start doing that. And the first date was so awkward because I felt like we didn't know each other.
I couldn't even remember your name.
It was really weird. Okay. Because normally if we went somewhere, we had the kids and we were,
It was just go.
Go.
Yeah.
But we hadn't just spent time with just the two of us together.
Well, no, in the
talking
crazy world we live in, and the mad rush, and the idea is to take just a step back and go, okay, what's most important?
Yeah.
And that's where these habits come in, where it's 5, 10, maybe even 15 minutes a day, or maybe an hour a week, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, and like if you're on a super tight budget, going on a walk together.
Oh, I didn't say anything about spending money on the dates. I'd be broke. So,
the objective is to spend time with the person because that's how you develop
connection,
relationship
that
and connection.
Yep.
So,
but other examples of social goals would be to find and say out loud one positive thing every day about somebody. I know one of my daughters has a goal to find one person who is lonely or sad and cheer them up. That's her goal. And I think that is so awesome.
Whether at school or at home.
And she is so cute. My daughter is so, I don't want to use the word precious because I think it's overused, but that goal of hers melts my heart because she does it. And she's a saint. She's so good about that.
That pleased me. I didn't know that was her goal for a long time. And one day she quietly told me, and she's like, I'll get ideas in my mind of somebody I should talk to, and I'll think, oh no. But every time I do, and I follow through with that idea, I'm so glad that I did. But think about it. This girl's in high school, and she was a freshman. And how many times are you sending a kid to school who's scared to go to school, who has an anxiety issue,
incredibly
or
lonely,
feels lonely,
or overwhelmed?
and,
sure.
Yet you have, but knowing that there's a teenage girl out there who's looking out and making sure, that people, that person needs a little bit of cheering up, a little bit of it, to be included, or
Well, I just
something.
heard a story the other day about a lady who made a similar goal. Only her goal was to not be on her phone when she's standing in line at the store. Her goal was to put her phone in her pocket, and that was kind of it, is to look for opportunities to talk to people. And she was at the store right after she made this goal. She was at the store. She was tempted to get out her phone to check the email or Facebook or the million other things she had to do.
You can get stuff done
while waiting in line, but she put her phone in her pocket or purse or whatever it was, and she just stood there, and she said it couldn't have been more than 30 seconds when the old man in front of her turned around.
Oh, no. As she noticed, the old man in front of her had a cat, like a bunch of cat food or something. And she made a comment. She's like, I see you have a cat.
And she felt really awkward about it. And sure enough, the old man turns around, and his whole demeanor changed. That connection was made because that human-to-human connection was made. And he turned around, he said, yes, I do. And you know what? I haven't told anybody this. This is an old man all by himself buying cat food. Turned around and told this lady, I didn't tell anybody, but today's my birthday. And she was like, well, let me be the first to wish you happy birthday. And it was that's it.
That
little tiny thing she made. That could have been her goal for the week.
Yeah.
She made that guy's week just by recognizing him as being a fellow human being on this crazy journey through life.
Yeah, and there are little goals like that make a difference, because like I've started to notice that like with Facebook, a lot of times when people are upset, they post things on Facebook. And then people will, and a lot of times it's over the top or whatever.
Extreme, sure.
And instead of arguing with them, instead recognizing how they feel and checking on them, letting them know you care about them.
Sending them a little personal message rather
Sending
than
them
posting on the public forums.
Yeah,
Sure.
asking how they're doing. And so like even just with something like that,
Well, no, that could be one of your goals, is to call a friend once a week.
Call a friend.
Just call a friend once a week. There you go.
Yeah, and where people don't get that anymore, and it's not the same. The Facebook thing is like a disconnected.
I find it ironic that it's called social media, but I actually think, Hannah, it's antisocial. It really is.
Yeah.
It's become that way. And I am not a fan of social media. I know it has its place. I personally have a really tough time with social media because I have found it does not engender or endear me closer to anybody.
I think it's broken up more relationships where people won't talk to each other, or
unfortunately, because the social boundaries aren't there on social media.
Yeah,
and people have it. The natural filters that come when you're face to face with somebody aren't there when you're behind a keyboard. So, but that brings me to the next point. That's another example.
But even so, if you are on social media, setting goals of how to treat people.
Exactly. Finding making a one positive post on social media every day or once a week, whatever.
Yeah.
And other options are to make a goal to do service. And this is one of my goals, where I made the goal to do one act of service every week. And I've said this before, and I realized, and some of my things have been just writing a note to somebody I knew who was having a tough time. And I just take 5 minutes, write a note. Hey, just thought I'd reach out. I know you're going through a tough time, such and such. I know what's going on in your life. Just so you know, I'm here for you. Your friend Fontaine. Put it in an envelope and mail it. And put my phone number or whatever on there. And, I know it doesn't make a big difference, but for me, I realized if I were to do that every week at the end of the year, I've done that 52 times.
Yeah, you go mow an old lady's yard, or it adds up.
It does add up. And so I really like that. It's one of my favorite goals. But there's also, service. Service is always, you'll never go wrong doing service.
It's a social goal where you're letting people know you care about them. But it overlaps into the other ones where emotionally and spiritually,
which is weird.
It's such a lift
because when you serve other people,
care about other people.
There's that emotional healing, that spiritual healing.
Yeah, and you become less absorbed in your own problems because all of us have problems that we're dealing with, and when you're instead setting a goal of, hey, I'm going to help some person out today, I'm going to do this, your problems become less, and you develop those connections with others, and it's wonderful. Along the line of, there's websites like justserve.org where it has like different community projects where they've requested help in your community. So you
and there's always opportunities there.
Yeah, and there's always, so if you're like, I don't know, I want to help in the community, but I don't know how, go to justserve.org, put in your zip code, and it will let you know of all the service opportunities in your area.
And I have noticed the Catholic Church pretty much always has something on there, like always.
That's really cool.
Whether it's the food bank or the veterans in need or the homeless shelters or whatever, they've always got something on there. They always
have something going on. And then manners, another social thing might be, hey, learn to say thank you. Practice saying please.
Oh, remember to say thank you.
Or even like table manners, like just developing basic social skills. Those are excellent goals for your kids, or maybe for yourself, depending on where you're at. So.
And I hope maybe we've kind of covered it at this point, but the goals should be small.
Yeah.
Goals should be these little, I guess we'll talk about that in a minute, but goals should be small, short, 15, 20 minutes max. But really, they could be simple as 30 seconds or a minute or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But that brings us to the
Another social goal that I like, I want this on my chart, but I haven't done it yet, is I want to have us invite somebody to dinner every Sunday.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like just like a neighbor, a friend, just every week.
A crazy family member.
A crazy family member. Yes. Like those are social goals that are meaningful.
Yeah.
And it'll be a blessing to your whole family.
And at the end of the year, you'll be grateful you did it.
Yeah.
So, but that leads into the last category that we came up with, which is artistic. And again, this one could probably fall under the other categories, but we made it its own because artistic, this is the crux of you developing your superpowers. What it is that unique about you that you're going to develop. And these are because we are inherently creative beings. I'm not talking about everybody's an athlete or a concert piano player or a ballet or a professional.
A lot of people think, I'm a mom, I'm an adult, I'm a dad, I'm an adult. Why would I play the piano, take time to practice the piano or practice the trumpet? I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be a ballerina.
I'm not going to be in the symphony.
I'm never going to play in the NBA. Why am I doing this? There's a very important reason why you should do it.
Well, there's so many things you learn from the process, first of all.
Yeah, but people who are developing talents, that's what gives you enthusiasm. It fills you with gratitude. It helps your relationships, but it changes your outlook on life.
Oh.
It's what makes you excited to get up out of bed in the morning. And
it's true. It's true.
Yes.
When you're developing new talents, you wake up excited. It's true.
Yeah. So it's vital to your well-being. We are creative beings. Yeah. That's who we are. And so you should always be developing a talent. It's necessary. It's one of those necessary nutrients in a balanced life.
Yeah, exactly.
But it don't go, oh well, I'm not going to be that, and I'm never going to become a professional this or a professional that. That's not the point.
In the balanced meal of life.
That is
vitamin K.
You got to develop your talents.
Without vitamin K, what do you go blind? Is that the one?
Well, life would be drudgery.
B12? I can't remember.
Without developing your talents, it turns into drudgery.
Exactly.
It becomes very bland.
And art is the antithesis of drudgery. It's the polar opposite. Mm-hmm. And I remember when we had young kids. And again, going back to I was working such long hours and you were at home with the kids all day and it was just, you had young kids, you didn't have that social outlet and you were just kind of like homebound almost.
Well, we lived in North Hollywood too.
Where you really didn't go, you really don't go on walks with the kids there if you want to live.
Yeah, my neighbors were scary. I didn't want to be friends with them.
And so I remember you suggested we need to be developing our talents. I remember this. Uh-huh. And you decided you were going to go back and do ballet. You had done ballet in high school. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I'm going to take a ballet class once a week. And I'm like, that is band. And I remember those are the nights I would block out so I wouldn't plan anything on my schedule so I could make sure that I was home to take care of the kids while you were gone to ballet. Mm-hmm. And that was the agreement. I remember that. That was awesome. On
Tuesday nights I would go, and Thursday nights I would do the same thing for you.
And I would go to basketball.
And he would go play basketball. And you enjoyed it so much.
I remember how much you enjoyed ballet. You'd come home all enthusiastic and excited. And it was once a week, and I'm certain you were not on your way to becoming part of the Sacramento Ballet Company. But I remember how excited and enthused you were about just doing ballet. And getting back into it.
I knew I wasn't going to become a professional dancer, but I enjoyed it so much.
So here are some examples of goals you can set in this category. And they include, and we already kind of mentioned them, but practicing and learning a musical instrument, dancing, drawing, writing, singing, learning Photoshop or any of these artistic programs like Illustrator or GarageBand, maybe learning 3D modeling and 3D printing, or some people love baking, or learning to decorate, whether it's food or furniture or houses or what's it called when you design a house and you decorate it? There's a term for that. Yeah. I can't remember what the term is, but where you're learning or doing, was it Etsy or Itsy Bitsy?
Itsy Bitsy Etsy. Yes, Etsy.
Sewing.
But the thing is you can also overlap some of your goals. Where remember when you and I, for our date night, we would go take a salsa dancing class together.
Oh, I like that.
And
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun. I enjoy.
Two birds with one stone. We're all about efficiency, baby. And I would play the
So-
trumpet as we were doing it.
Oh, it was really funny.
No, I did not do that.
Okay.
So,
But yeah, if you like, you have a goal to spend some time with your daughter each week, and you both love sewing, and you go take a sewing class together, something
great.
like that. It's great.
or I take my son with me to go to play basketball or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. Yeah, exactly. So I think, so those are the 6 categories. And just to kind of recap, the 6 categories of goals that we kind of came up with are physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, social, and artistic. And I guess I kind of want to wrap this up by saying that those are the what's, but the how, when you're setting your goals, you need to think about what you want to achieve and then think about the little daily steps that'll take you there. Like I said, it's like 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. I would love to perform the trumpet at the Christmas program. That would be wonderful to me. And right now, so my goal is, well, just to get back into playing trumpet, but my goal is I practice for 15 minutes every day. 15 minutes, that's it. And even if that's all I ever do, it is so gratifying to me to watch myself improve and to get back into something I used to love. And I'm watching, and it's just a little habit. And I block out 15 minutes every day, but I really enjoy it.
Well, the funny thing is, it actually makes all the kids excited to watch you developing your talent.
right.
They're like, you come downstairs, you call everyone to dinner with your trumpet, the dinner call.
'Cause I'm a
And then
nerd.
you like play, in the theme song from Indiana Jones and whatever. And I see like little, you're inspiring all the little kids. They're like, oh, I could do something like that. So
It is
it
inspiring
inspires
to
the
them.
people around you.
So, and it does,
So-
it like you said, it gives you enthusiasm and appreciation for life.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this earlier, but work ethic is great. And that's what we're all about. That's like the core value, but that'll only make you a great janitor. We want to, with the habits, the goal was to apply that work ethic to our lives and our unique missions in life. And that's really
And to
when
to
exciting
develop
things
a whole,
happen.
become a whole person, a complete whole person, where you're developing in all these different areas.
Exactly. And so we suggest, have at least one habit in each of those 6 categories. And granted, you've got 10, so you have some leeway. And you can overlap, as you were mentioning, Hannah. You have one goal serves multiple purposes, and maybe if you're homeschooling, you'll have more academic type goals.
Yeah, to help you out with the homeschooling, where hey, get your history done, get your math done.
Or if you're a musician,
things
you'll
done.
have more music or artistic.
But there's 10
stuff.
goals.
Yeah.
There's 10 goals. So even if you have the 6 categories, you still have the 4 left over. So
And
you
that's
can
plenty.
Yeah, you can emphasize one of these categories as you need it.
But musicians will have more artistic goals, maybe, or athletes might have more physical goals. But as you were saying at the beginning, Hannah, and I like this, where don't overdo it. Where if you fill your plate with just carrots, you know what? You're going to get plenty of vitamin B or whatever
Or
it is.
vitamin A. You'll have all the vitamin A
But
you
you're going
need.
to you're going to be so full, you won't have room for the other vital nutrition that you need from the other things. So the idea is to kind of maintain and keep this balance, because when you fill your life with good pursuits, that's the other thing, is that the bad things kind of just fade away.
Yeah.
And there's no room for them.
Well, and
there's
also,
no room for the
like a
bad stuff when it's
nutritious-
filled with good stuff.
Yeah, well, like a nutritious meal that has the protein, has the carbohydrates, has the fat, has the vegetables, the fruit, the meat, the all the food groups, and it looks great. It's satisfying. You leave that meal and you feel satisfied.
Well, no.
So-
When you were having the problem though with the eating, when we first got married, and you were shocked. What did you went to the nutritionist? What did she tell you? Didn't she tell you to eat more?
Yeah, she told me to eat more. And she's like, can you add some sausages to your breakfast? I'm like, sausages? Why? I've never eaten one of those.
Well, no, because your goal was to cut things out and cut things out.
cut things out.
And instead,
and
she's
I
like,
would
no, you're.
overemphasize.
No. What did she say
yeah.
though? She's like, you're not getting enough.
Yeah, her focus was, you're not getting enough from the bread group. You're not getting enough from the meat group. You're not getting enough from the vegetable group. You're not getting enough from the fruit group. You are getting enough milk. But I was always hungry. And it was because I wasn't eating like balanced regular meals, and I wasn't ever satisfied by what I was eating. And so similar to having a balanced meal on your plate where you have a water to drink and you've got, this meal with all these different components, that's how you want your life to be. You want your life to be
full.
To be full and to be satisfying.
And to be balanced.
Yeah. And in order for it to be satisfying, you've got to be working on these areas. And then you'll have a balanced, satisfying life. And that's the goal. Yeah.
And there you go. I mean, those are all of our thoughts on maintaining that balanced meal of habits. If you like what you hear in this podcast, please tell your friends. They may want to listen too. We may share something that they're actively looking for, a solution to maybe the problem that they currently have. If you have a suggestion for a future podcast, go to our website under support, click contact us, send us an email, and we'll get right on it. And that's it for today. Enjoy some of Falcon Jasper's wacky, waltzy work. We'll see you next time.